Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make explosive, warped sounds like Flume. So, as usual, you get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because everything will be available there shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So, this loop you heard in the intro, we're at 121 BPM, kind of like a slower, future bass, trap type of vibe, and the first sound we have here is the Chord synth, which sounds like this. This is actually two layers. We have a high layer and a mid layer. And so I'll kind of show you while I'm breaking them down why I have this split into two layers. But yeah, so the first layer is the high one that you just heard. And the way that I made this was using wavetables. So I'll show you the chords first, actually. This is the pattern. So all that rhythm that you hear, like how this sounds all choppy and stuff, is done in the MIDI. It's not like any kind of like gating or, I don't know, like sequencing, like some kind of volume cut or something. It's all just done in the MIDI. I'm just literally playing this in. And you can see what's happening here is basically, these are actually just really straightforward chords. They're all just regular major or minor chords. Like, for example, here you can actually see there's an F minor. Then it goes up to G sharp major. Then it goes to A sharp minor, I believe. Yeah. And then C sharp major. So it's not really that crazy. But what's happening here is I'm just playing around with the inversions. So you can see, like with the F minor here, we have a regular F, G sharp, C. Really straightforward F minor chord. But then like here, then the G sharp in the middle goes away. But then there's the G sharp up here. So it's just kind of playing around with the voicing. And then I also have like the root notes and the fifths doubled up down below as well. So yeah, it's not the most complicated chords. It's just kind of like getting creative with the way you play around with the rhythm. And a little bit with how you set up the synth, which I'll talk about in a moment as well. But yeah, so for the synth on this one, I made this using wavetable. It's a pretty straightforward super saw. Basically, you can see we just have a saw wave. It's going into a low pass filter. And then I have a bunch of unison on there. You can see I've got the voices up to 8. It's on the random setting. And we've got the amount up pretty high. I also have this amplitude envelope, which is modulating not just the amplitude, but also the filter frequency. You can see, yeah, just kind of like a subtle thing. And you can see what's happening here with this is I have a bit of a tact. So this is kind of playing with the rhythm of what you're seeing there. You can see what's happening is when it plays these really choppy chords with that attack, you get like this quick kind of choppy stab. Versus if I just turn off the attack. So yeah, that's kind of like another thing. It's like playing around with that. And you can see also, I have this going just down to there, as opposed to having sustain go all the way down. And the reason for this is because I want the notes to ring out a little bit. I'll explain this more when I get to this, but it's kind of playing around with the saturator there. So yeah. After that, I just have a little bit of chorus, pretty standard stuff. Then I have a little bit of echo doing dotted eighth notes. And then I have this Haas effect. And so this is part of the reason why I split the chords up into the high layer and the mid layer. I have this one being, you can hear it's like really wide with this Haas effect. And then this mid layer is a little bit more, you know, down the middle. No pun intended there. But yeah, so I have the Haas effect on here. You can see we just have this audio effect rack. We have a right chain and a left chain. The left chain is delayed a little bit. And yeah, pretty simple stuff. After that, I just have an EQ8 cutting at the low end. And that is it for the high layer. The next layer we have here is the mid layer, which sounds like this. So this is actually a really similar synth. You can see it's just a super saw going into the low pass filter. We have that same envelope where it's got the attack and then it kind of rings out a little bit at the end. It's playing the same MIDI. We've got the same unison except I'm using the classic mode here. And then we have a bit of chorus. So yeah, this is just kind of filling out the mid-range. It makes it a little bit cleaner because you don't have, you know, everything just coming from this super wide layer. We can kind of get a little bit more detail work here. So yeah, I'll show you the group processing or what's going on there. I want to talk a little bit about this track delay here first though. So you can see I have the track delay on here. And what's happening is it's kind of giving these a little bit more of an interesting rhythm. You can hear like they kind of play off in the beat a little bit more. If I put it back, it's very straight and you don't get that like groove. But if we have it, you know, back a little bit behind the beat, you can hear it kind of like gives it a little bit more of a cool groove. So yeah, just a little bit of that goes a long way there. So then on the group, I have a bit of processing as well. The first thing we have here is a saturator. And what I'm doing with this, as you can see, I've got the drive, and then I've got the wave shaper here. So it's just making it really fat. But then also with the wave shaper, I have this damp here. And so this is why I have the volumes on the envelopes not going all the way down. It's because you can hear when that rings out. I'll play like a single note so you can kind of hear that. When that rings out, you get that really cool kind of like textured sound because it's not quite as loud as, you know, when it's at its peak. So when it's ringing out a little bit like that, it's like just coming through that damp a little bit. So yeah, I really like using that. It's a cool effect. It really gives your synths like some cool texture. After that, we just have a bit of reverb. What I'm doing with this is I have this automated, so you can see there are these points here where it just goes like that. I just have these long notes in the MIDI, and then I've just automated literally just the dry wet to go up. It's pretty simple. Those of you who know about producing future house know about this technique. It's used a lot in that style. But yeah, after that, we just have a bit of drum bus to kind of fatten it up. Pretty standard stuff there. I've got an EQ8 cutting at the low end to clean it up to make room for the bass. And then we just have a compressor side chaining into the kick. And that is it for the chords. The next thing we have here is the bass, which sounds like this. So this is just playing the root notes of the chords. It's playing a little bit more in a sparse way. Like you can hear, there's more space between the notes with this one. But yeah, so this is two layers. We have this re-space and then the sub. And so the re-space is made using analog. What we've got here is we just have two saw waves, detuned a little bit, going into a bandpass filter with a pretty high resonance. You can see the bandpass filter is being key tracked, meaning where you play on the keyboard determines where the filter frequency will be. And yeah, after that, I just have a little bit of unison. And that is it for inside of analog. After that, we have a little bit of chorus, and then we have this amp. And so this is what's making it sound so like crunchy like that. So yeah, pretty standard stuff. After that, we just have an EQ8 cutting at the low end, and then cutting a little bit around there just to kind of scoop it out and make it a bit cleaner sounding. And that is the re-space. The next thing we have is the sub, which sounds like this. And so this is really simple. It's just a sine wave going into a saturator. The saturator just makes it a little bit fatter and a little bit bigger sounding. The only thing here, as you can see in the MIDI, I don't have this note on the re-space. You can see is going up an octave there. Here it just stays in the same octave. And the reason why is because it gets way louder. For some reason when it goes up, and it just didn't sound that pleasant, so I just have it playing it an octave down like that. So yeah, and then I have the basses grouped together. I have a few effects on the group to kind of glue them together a little bit more. The first thing we have here is the saturator. So with this, I've just got a little bit of drive. It's just making it a bit fatter. Here's without it, and then with it. So yeah, you can hear it just helps to glue the two basses together a little bit more. After that, we have this EQ8, which is just cutting out a little bit around like 178 hertz. So kind of like the low mid-range, just cleaning up some muddy stuff. You can hear that re-space tends to have a lot of stuff around there that you want to get rid of. So yeah, after that, we just have a compressor side chaining into the kick, and a compressor side chaining into the snare as well, because it's playing on that note, and you can hear if we don't have the compressor side chaining into the snare, it gets like really loud there, so yeah, just kind of a nice way to clean it up, and that is it for the bass. So the next thing we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So what this is it's just like a pretty big sort of trap kick. You can see the MIDI here. And then what we've got going on is, yeah, it's this trap kick. I've got it in a simpler, and then I've got this going through a little bit of drum bus. You can see the drum bus kind of beefs it up. I've got the drive up a bit. I've got the crunch up a little bit. And then I also have the boom on there, kind of giving it some more low. And you can hear if I turn that off, it's kind of thin sounding. But that helps to round it out and give it some nice low. And then I just have that tuned to F. So then after that, I have this audio effect track. And what I'm doing with this is I'm trying to make this kick really, really wide. So something Flume and a lot of other producers in the style do really well is they have these like really big, wide trap kicks that don't get like they don't mess up the mix, but they just, yeah, they have like this really nice width to them. And so the way that you do this is by doing what I've done here. Basically, I have an audio effect rack and I have two chains. I have one which is just kind of like the mid-range and the low end. You can see I've split it off with an EQ8 here, right at 1,000 hertz. And then I have one which is just the high end. You can see I've also split that off at 1,000 hertz there. And on the high end one, you can see I have the Haas effect. So this is what I was using on the chords as well, or on the highlighter of the chords. Again, it just spreads it out. I've got one chain where it's just completely mono, and that's panned to the right. And then I've got one, or excuse me, I have one with no effects on it that's completely panned to the right. And then I have one with the simple delay on it, just kind of delaying the signal back a little bit. And that's how you get the Haas effect. And so this is how you make these big wide kicks. Basically, you keep the low end mono, because obviously, you know, you don't want to have your low end super mono with like a kick or really anything in your mix. But yeah, so that is how I did that. After that, we have the snare, which sounds like this. So this is pretty standard. It's just like a pretty, you know, straightforward, powerful, sort of punchy trap snare. What we've got here, as you can see, it's playing like this kind of pattern. The only cool thing that I think I did here is like this. That little thing is kind of something I noticed Flume does a lot, like taking snares and like pitching them up and pitching them down and just doing cool stuff with them like that. So yeah, definitely something that you should do when you're making your own beats like this. And then the only effect I have on there is just this drum bus. You can see I just have a bit of drive on there. It's just kind of fattening it up a bit. There's without it, and then with it. So yeah, just kind of makes it a bit more punchy. Then I have the kick and the snare grouped together just to kind of make them, you know, a little bit closer in texture and kind of make them a bit stronger in the mix. You can see I just have this drum bus on here. So here's without it. And with it. You can hear, yeah, it's just making everything a lot fatter. I've just got the drive up a bit, I've got the crunch up a little bit. And that is it for the kick and the snare. So then the last thing we have here are the cymbals. And I have two cymbals. I have this little 808 ride cymbal, which you can hear is just being reversed. And then we have this hi-hat. Just like your standard sort of like trap hi-hat. And then I have these in a group here. You can see we've got a bit of track delay on them. Again, the track delay with elements like this that are going like really straight eighth notes over top of the beat really help to kind of give it a cool rhythm and make everything just feel a little bit more interesting and have more of a groove. And then I have those cymbals grouped together as well. You can see we just have a little bit of drum bus and then this EQ8 cutting out the low. So here's with nothing. And then with it all. So yeah, you can hear the drum bus just kind of makes these a lot more powerful, and then the EQ8 cleans it up. So the drum bus just got a bit of drive, a bit of crunch without it, and then with it, yeah, you can hear again, makes it a bit more powerful, and then the EQ8 just cuts out the low end because you can see and hear there's a bit of nasty low end in there after distorting these two with the drum bus. So we're just doing that, and that is it for the cymbals. And with that, that is also going to be it for today. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed very much. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. And make sure to hit that little notification bell next to the subscribe button as well. Thank you again, everybody. Once again, you get the project file and the samples and MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff from this video in the description. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.